there's this really interesting question I wanted to pick your brain on here, which was about what area in the infrastructure needs more investment. Because as you know, MLS is world renowned for their facilities, right? Their training
Yeah.
facilities, their stadiums, their youth facilities. There is, I mean, most clubs, and I'll put that with an asterisk, Colorado. Most clubs do really, really well with their entire setup. And while you can improve the area, the of on the field product, there is a lot of stuff that you can work on interiorly on your infrastructure. And a lot of the CSOs were talking about the academy, right? It is working on making sure that you have a pipeline so that you're not just investing money for older players who then retire and you're like, oh, well, there goes all my money. I can't recoup that, right? And the other one that came up is the salary cap again, right? MLS Next Pro spending more in that space to try and build up your reserve league so that, similar to what Charlotte's doing right now. Charlotte goes out and buys a bunch of 18, 19-year-old international players, puts them in the academy, and then in 3, 4 years, up they go, right? Petkovic, Toklamati, these players who you don't know of for 2, 3 years. And then all of a sudden they're on the scene doing really well. That's their process where they don't develop much from within, but they will go and take others that have been semi-developed and move them on, right? So your thoughts on kind of how the academy should take place? Whoops. How the academy should take place, and then if there needs to be improvement in that area.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I really don't know too much about the setups, but I
Hmm.
know that it definitely we need to do more domestically because we are such a big country that there has to be a kid, out there that's really good. But because of the way things are set up here and how big, the US is, having to pay. I know that I don't believe any MLS academies the kids have to pay to play on.
Yeah, they're all free for
They're
the
all
most
free
part. I
now.
believe
Yeah.
for the most part, and I think the variation is how early it becomes free. Like I know Philadelphia's got like a whole like school, kind of like in Europe, where you jump in at sixth grade and it's free all the way up through. And I think Red Bull have started that, but I think others are just like, yeah, this is our team. It plays in MLS Next Pro. If you're a part of our academy system, you don't pay anything, but that's it.
And see, I think that really a lot of people should take notes from the union,
Yeah,
from their academy.
yeah,
I think they should, because that's really what it should be about. Because you know, paying $3,000 $4,000 a year to play on an academy team, and the only reason I know this is I have a coworker. Her son got invited to play to try out for the Riverhounds.
oh,
It was going to
cool.
be like $4,000 a year just for him to be on the team.
Less cool.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's cool that
Yeah,
he
cool,
was
cool to be there. Less cool that you're spending college tuition to be there.
yeah, that's the only bad part. So like if somehow we set up MLS, when I say we, focus on, spend a little bit more money, you have these billionaires, spend a little more money on setting up the academies and growing, domestically that way, and like working with, local leagues like that, and maybe even offering to help a little bit. And like I know that there's this the that's another thing with the academy stuff, I believe, like where if a player lives in a certain area, only that team can have the rights to that player. What is that? I can't remember. It's not
It's territory
discovery.
rights.
There
Territory
we go.
rights. Yeah.
Territory rights. I need to, like, I don't want to say too much about it because I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's a thing. And it's like, do we really need that? Like, if a kid's good and like his parent, like if the team is offering to pay, kind of like Pulisic going to Germany, like Dortmund probably paid for like his move and all
I
that. So
bet.
like, you know, we just need to give more opportunity to kids that can afford it, because really it's like the rich kid
Hmm.
game almost if you're not playing locally. Like that's one of the big things where I'm located. I coached a couple years at local high school, and we had a couple kids that were good enough that could play at a college level, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And they but the only time that they played was during our season,
Right.
because they would have to travel 45 minutes to an hour away every night because that was the closest, like, it's not an academy at that point in time. It's just like the travel teams and stuff like that, and not only that, they would have to pay this huge amount of money to play on that team if they made it, which I think that two of the players that I coached could have made it on that team pretty easily.
Hmm.
But because of travel, and then I live in a very poor community, like, so they can't afford that. They can't
Right.
afford that. And so really that's where it lies, being able to give any kid the opportunity to grow and spend that money on those kids to develop them. I think that's the way the academies need to go. And I like I said, really a lot of teams need to take a look at how the union are doing in their academy, because we've seen so many academy players from the union. Even Dallas, we haven't seen it as much from Dallas recently, but like Tyler Adams, Weston McKinney, like, have these guys come up through the academy, and then if we sell them on, if they're good enough to move on, and that's just more money that you can put back into the academy. So I think that that's what they should really focus on if they are going to put more money into the academy and want to grow domestically. We got to be able to give kids that deserve the opportunity, that can actually play ball, to give them a chance to grow in under an academy, under a professional, instead of just Joe Schmo coaching like me. I've never played the game because I didn't really, soccer wasn't introduced to me until after I was out of high school. So I didn't play or anything, but like I've learned it enough that I could coach it,
Sure.
that thing. So, but at the same time, like, I can't relate to them that way, as in I played before. So
Right.
I just give more opportunity, and use that money to give other kids opportunity that their families can't afford it. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've coached now. I'm going on I guess year 5 officially of coaching club ball after college. Like I did training stuff when I was a kid, but like
Mhm.
official coaching, like licensed and all that good stuff. I was really shocked when I started. We were at a place called Lexington FC, which is now Lexington SC in USL
Mhm.
One. I worked
Okay.
for that group, which was phenomenal. Um, then I moved into a place called South Carolina United, which has South Carolina Heat and the South Carolina United Banthams, both play in USL two. And now I'm at a place called Aiken FC. Two of those three leagues have, or clubs, I should say, have scholarship opportunities for players who are underdeveloped, which is something I've never seen before. But it's
Mhm.
brilliant because what it is it's not costing anybody anything else. They're going through local business. Local business is sponsoring, and they're helping that way, which I think is the right way to go about it. Right,
Yeah.
go in and invest that way. And I agree with you. I think there are tons of kids that fall through the cracks. I think that USL is a viable option. I think people can play at USL, right? But
Mhm.
if MLS academies are free and USL is going to charge $8,000 a year, right? That's huge. That's a huge discrepancy, right?
Yeah.
If USL went free, you're going to see a lot more players come through the pipeline, right? And
Mhm.
that's just a fact, right? We saw that as soon as MLS went free, right?
Yeah.
But I thought this idea that you have two different ways to build your academy or second teams was really interesting. Like one straight from the academy pipeline, and the other the way that like Charlotte are doing, where it's like, oh, I'm going to go and buy this other player. I think they're both viable options. Like I agree that we want to invest in there, but if you're running a team and you want to win games, I truly, truly believe that you have to do the best thing that's for you, right? So if that means you're going to go out and buy, a bunch of Slovakian guys like this, like Charlotte is right now, and going out into this random team that nobody's ever heard of and just doing player swaps, which is, feels like what they're doing, go for it, right? And I love it because at the end of the day, you're bringing more talent in, whether it's through the pipeline or it's transfers from overseas. You're bringing more talent in, and that's going to raise the level. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so I
Whichever
love it.
works for your team. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever works for your market, and what you can dish out, because, Charlotte, like you're saying, Charlotte, like that's a good, nice city. Like, people would want to go there, like Atlanta, your Miami's, like those big cities. But, those other, I've never been to Philadelphia, heard a lot of things about Philadelphia, but like, you know, their focus is domestic, and they've done a good job.
Yeah.
So, whichever works for your team, that, as long as you're doing it, bringing in more talent, it works.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the academies were a very big emphasis early in Don Garber's tenure. He was pushing and pushing for this idea that we need something sustainable. We can't just keep buying 37-year-old European guys for a quick buck and then losing that money, right? So make sure you get academies, invest in the community around you. Let's go build that up. And that's where my assumption is, like, this is not insider info or anything, but that's my assumption is why the territory rights came in. It's like, okay, if you put the effort to grow this academy system, we're not going to let anybody else take it because you're going to put the extra money, right? It was in that phase of time where you were putting a ton of resources into infrastructure, academy, stadiums, whatever, right? So to encourage that and to say, okay, you're not going to lose on this investment, we're going to say this bubble is yours and yours alone. Nobody's going to take anything from it. It's all going to be yours. Are we at a point where we can get away from that? Probably.
Yeah.
But that's a different story.